Yo, for more in-depth Knicks conversations and more Uncle Freezy one-on-one time, consider being a Patreon. The link to our Blorange Tears Patreon page is in the description box below. It's more individual conversations, more in-depth breakdowns. For more of that stuff, consider $2 a month or something cheap like that for more in-depth Knicks conversations. I'll see y'all over there. I'm Uncle Freezy, and you know who I am, Uncle Freezy, the number one chief rocker in Knicks universe, giving you everything that you want. I will holler at y'all later. Peace, y'all. Hey, party people in the place to be. What's good? It's your man, Uncle Freezy, number one chief rocker in Knicks universe. Right? Welcome. Welcome. All right. Just to get started, everybody, I'm trying something different. What I am doing this episode is recording a podcast to apply to Apple iTunes. So I'm trying something different. I'm trying a different format, right? So that I can apply to Apple iTunes and other podcasting formats. So I'm going to try to skip some of the ratchetness and overall Jerry Springer-ish, Ricky Lake-ish things that we usually do on the YouTube channel, and trying to make something for iTunes. I appreciate everybody coming through. Forbes' Phil is in the building. Johnny Davis was good. Sav was good. Savage NYC was good. Danny Landis is in the building. King Ribby, appreciate y'all coming through. So I got something that I want to record, right? It's probably going to take about an hour, 15 minutes, hour, 20 minutes, hour, 30 minutes, depending on how y'all comments go. I'm going to record this thing for iTunes, put this thing up on iTunes, clip the episode, and then come right back so that we can do the Knicks at Night podcast, right? So I still want y'all to be the same. It'll be like y'all watching somebody record a live album, kind of. I still want the same interaction from the chat and all that stuff. Y'all still my people. I'm just doing something a little different so that we can put the Blorange Tears word out on other platforms. As I sip the scorching hot tea. So for everybody listening on Apple, iTunes, and other podcasting sites, my name is Uncle Freezy. I am a New York Knicks YouTuber with a passionate following. We're not the biggest, but we are definitely the most passionate. Shout out to Jet Life for Life, Lily Phillips. So I'm gonna begin, right? Let me begin with a question. Are the Knicks moving on from Donovan Mitchell? I'm asking this to the chat, and actually, it's a rhetorical question because I think I have my answer. Hey, Lily Phillips, I'm not doing this permanently. This is just one thing in many. So I'll probably do this once a week. Maybe once a week about this time right here. Just do one iTunes podcast about an hour and a half and load that there. And then the rest of the time we can party like it's 1999. Yeah, man. So again, for the first time, for the folks listening to me for the first time, my name is Uncle Freezy. I am, I guess, the leader, and I put it using the air quotes. I'm the leader, air quote, of a passionate bunch of Knicks fans who congregate together on a YouTube channel called Blorange Tears. Yes, Blorange Tears, right? Right, Blorange Tears. It's spelled just like it sounds, Blorange Tears, right? So I am the de facto leader, I guess, because those guys can't find any better leadership than I. But we have a YouTube channel, and we're expanding somewhat into other areas so that others that are just as passionate as we are can get the same feel and the same vibes, right? UBG is in the building. Sherwin, what's good? What's good? So the question is, are the Knicks moving on from a potential Donovan Mitchell trade? It's an interesting question in that there is no definitive answer because, as he sips the tea, because during the offseason, during this stretch of the offseason, deals generally don't get done. So it's easy to mask a stare down or a shall I say whizzing contest during the summertime because it's the off season when things are generally slow anyway. You can say, well, I made my best offer. I'm giving them a month to mull it over, right? Are the Knicks moving on from a potential Donovan Mitchell acquisition? Before I answer that question, I want to ask a few questions first, just to ensure that we are in the right line of thinking. Right? So here's question number one. And I am going to respectfully point this in the direction of one of our hardcore members, one of the hardcore followers of the channel, Sherwin. Sherwin, what does Donovan Mitchell's addition mean for the Knicks? And not the press conference, because they'll win the press conference, and not in the short term, because the short term bump will be significant. But what about long term? Sure. So what does Donovan Mitchell's addition mean for the Knicks? Not in the immediate term or the short term, but in the long term. What does a Donovan Mitchell addition mean for the Knicks? And so for those that are not able to see, you guys that are listening to this on podcast, Sherwin replies, 2 additional wins. 2 additional wins. Right. So this is what I think. This is my opinion of the question that was asked. What does a Donovan Mitchell addition mean for the Knicks? In the immediate term, the New York Knicks win the press conference. If they pull this trade off during the summer, the Knicks will be the toast of the proverbial town until games start. Because no one this offseason will made a move significant enough or close enough to the Knicks acquiring Donovan Mitchell to steal all the attention from the Knicks. Right? So the Knicks win in the immediate term. All the press conferences, the Knicks will win all the press conferences. They'll win all the hype battles. Right? The Knicks will get to do things like put out hype videos things like backcourt of the future. How many games can Brunson and Donovan Mitchell win together? Is the Larry O'Brien trophy within reach? Can Donovan Mitchell win the NBA MVP, league MVP in New York? Can the New York Knicks finally get a league MVP? Those type questions will be abound if Donovan Mitchell is traded here. Now, are those questions valid? Probably not. Probably not. Are those questions even worth asking? Probably not. But during the summer, when you have more hype than basketball, the hype will rule the day. Anybody disagree with that? During the summertime, during the summer, hype rules everything. Right? Let me get into this thing. Let me take a deep dive real quick. Let me get into this rabbit hole that we call this potential Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell backcourt. Let me dive deep into this rabbit hole. Last season, the New York Knicks had one of the tallest starting backcourts in the NBA. They started a point guard for 40-something games, 48 games, maybe 50 games, I forget. They started a point guard named Alec Burks, who's not really a point guard. He's a small forward masquerading as a point guard. He's about 6'6", 6'7". At shooting guard, the Knicks started a Frenchman named Evan Fournier, who is about 6'6", 6'7". One of the tallest backcourts in the NBA, if not the tallest, maybe possibly the tallest. I don't know. I didn't go check. I didn't check everybody's roster and sample size and, who was the tallest for a certain level of games and all of that stuff. I'll admit I didn't do that research because for the most part, I am a Knicks fan, and who cares about everybody else? With me, it's Knicks or nothing. With me, Uncle Freezy, it's Knicks or nothing. And I know that's not proper English to you guys that listen to podcasts and stuff. For the most part, I know what I should say, but my heart in the moment has me speak on that back alley, Jersey City, New Jersey comes out sometimes, right? It shouldn't, because my grammar teachers in school would still want to pop me on the wrist with a ruler. I know some of you guys may not remember when things like that was the standard mode of discipline. I know that's not the standard mode of discipline today. Today you can't even raise your eyebrow at a kid, let alone raise your hand. And I'm with it. I know times are different. And I'm with it. I'm with that movement. But as you get to know me, as you get to know who I am, and to know this rabid following of the Andrew Colleges, of the UBGs, of the Savage NYCs, of the T. Williams, of the Corey Joneses. And yes, I am shouting my people out. Guys in the YouTube chat, yes, I'm shouting y'all out so that y'all names can be heard on Apple iTunes. Yes, I'm shouting y'all out, showing y'all some love, right? So I know I should probably speak better, clearer language, use the Queen's English, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be myself. And for the Apple iTunes listeners, I hope you can appreciate a ordinary person being the best version of themselves and the realest, right? But here's the thing. We had the tallest, or one of the tallest backcourts in the NBA last year. And the New York Knicks finished with a win total of 37 wins. And I know I can hear you like, oh man, that's not impressive. What is that? 37 wins? The gold standard should be 50 wins. I know and I understand. And hopefully at the very end of this podcast, we can all have an understanding of where we are as a franchise, where we would like to be, right? And something along the lines of what questions the Knicks fans should be asking themselves and other fans, and the front office. So let's do a deep dive into this backcourt. Well, Jalen Brunson is 6'1"-ish. People say he's 6'1". The word on the street is that he's not 6'1". He's somewhere in the neighborhood of 5'11". But so what? I don't care. I don't care about listed height and actual height and all that stuff. We know for a fact that Donovan Mitchell is 6'1.5" without shoes. That's what he measured it at the NBA Combine. That's his official height. 6'1.5" with a 6'10" wingspan. Both of those are official, logged in by the National Basketball Association. 6'1.5", 6'10" wingspan. Right? One of the immediate questions posed in a league of tall human beings is why would the Knicks spend so much time and assets for two short human beings? In a league that trots out tall human beings all the time. One of the tallest people in the league MVP is 6'11". 6'11", 7 foot there in that neighborhood. Right? Kareem Grant is in the building. What's good? Neville Humphreys, what's good? Good to see you, boss. So in a league that trots out tall human beings, and some of the best players to ever play in this league are 6'6", 6'8", 6'9". Why are the Knicks going after two guys that are listed at 6'1"? Why? Why would they go after two, not one guy? Oh, not one guy, but two guys that are 6'1", right? Here is my answer in a nutshell. The two guys that they had playing in the backcourt last season were 6'6" and 6'7". And both guys, during some point in their career, were listed at both 6'6" and 6'7". Both. Alec Burks and Evan Fournier at one point in their careers were listed at 6'6" and or 6'7". Right. That backcourt of very tall human beings led the New York Knicks to 37 wins. Right? And so what I'm asking you rhetorically is, does size matter? Does size matter? Or does the old cliche, the old football coach cliche matter? Does the old football coach cliche rule the day in this scenario? And you know the old football coach saying, "Hey, Uncle Freezy, it's not about the size of the dog in a fight. It's about the size of the fight and the dog." And as I say that, I cringe because I'm a pet owner, right? I'm a dog owner. I have a I don't know what Gaston is. He looks like a pug bully mix. He was a stray and we adopted him. Right? We brought him in. He was a stray. He was scarred, man. His owners abused him. And we brought him in. We took, and he's a loving dog. He won't bark for nothing now. He's trained. He's friendly. He's a pushover. The neighbors love him. The only thing about Gaston that we probably dislike is he is involved with a turf war with my neighbor's garden gnomes. So my neighbor has a garden gnome, the ones that with the beard and the hat and all that stuff, and they have like the windmill arms, like when the wind blows, like the arms do that windmill thing or whatever. And that drives Gaston crazy. For some reason, Gaston is in a turf war with a gnome. But whatever, that's a story for another day. And we just adopted a pit bull terrier named Benny. He is 5 months and 3 weeks, and he is a sweetheart. The smartest dog I've ever owned. I'm sorry. Right? But back to the Knicks backcourt. Getting back to the Knicks backcourt, right? Getting back to the Knicks backcourt, you have one guy who's listed at 6'1", but maybe not. And then another guy who's listed at 6'1" and maybe is a smidge over. But in the grand scheme of things, both of them are short in a league that values tall players. Right? What do these two short NBA players offer a franchise like the New York Knicks, who's been in the league for over 75 years with a win percentage of 48.4%? That's right, Knicks fans. The Knicks have been in the league forever. And I know that's hyperbole. And their win percentage is 48.4%. What does a short backcourt mean for the New York Knicks? Well, what that means is several things. For one, the head coach has a system that he likes to run, and he is looking to establish some sense of stability, right? He is looking to establish some sense of stability going forward, because one of the reasons why the New York Knicks have a historic win percentage of 48.4 is because the franchise has been unstable. The franchise has been unstable for the last 45 years or so. The franchise has been criminally and comically unstable. During those years, the Knicks' best player, one of their best players, a ray of sunshine, blew out his knee on a hustle play, crumbled to the ground, and we knew his career was over. Right? We were comically bad. We get a ray of sunshine and Bernard King on a hustle play, right? We like to tell our kids to hustle. Tell everybody to hustle. He blows out a knee and is never the same player again. Right? Right? Calamity. It happens to the Knicks often. Right? The Knicks, say 15 years later, 15 or so years later, I think. May have been sooner, may have been later, but whatever. Let's just estimate. Let's estimate. They trade for a player that choked out his coach. And calamity like this, inconsistencies like this, instabilities like this is what lead to an NBA franchise like the New York Knicks not winning NBA championships, because a lot of times when the moves are there to be made, the Knicks get nervous. And then when the moves are there to not be made, they force their hand and pull off a Antonio McDyess trade or sign Amari Stoudemire to one of the richest contracts you wouldn't believe your eyes. Hey, Bo Ismail in the place to be. What's good, brother? Ty Barbie, I see you. Jay Boogie is in the building. What's good? And so for those that don't know, this is my first time doing this. I'm recording a podcast on YouTube to add to Apple iTunes so that we can kind of grow our fan base, grow our following, grow so that we can grow this Blorange Tears family. Salute guys and gals. I see y'all out there. And so for those of you guys listening on Apple iTunes, I think we've been on for about 27 minutes. We have about 90 people watching and in the chat. You know, we generally rock and roll like this. It's not a popularity contest. We're just rabid Knicks fans looking to spread to another platform so that we can have conversations with other Knicks fans. Right? We have to bring the party to where you guys are. Right? Basically, we're just bringing the party to where you are. So the Knicks over the years have been an unstable franchise. Right? The Knicks over the years have been an unstable franchise. We know this. Right? Everybody knows this. And so what this regime is looking to do, the Leon Roses, the Walt Perrins, the Brock Allers, the Scott Perrys, the Gerson Rosas's, the Tom Thibodeau's of the world are looking to make the franchise stable, right? And reputable. And honestly, we have been neither for a very long time. And so it's a hard job. Right? It's a hard job. Right? So what does that have to do with Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson? Here is what it is about Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. It's not about their height or their basketball skill, even though it helps. It's about who these players are as people. It's about things like integrity, work ethic, things of that sort. And I know that's a different spin than what a lot of you guys heard. You know, a lot of people think the Donovan Mitchell thing is about verticality and foot speed. No, there are a lot of guys with verticality, right? There are a lot of guys with foot speed. There are a lot of those guys out there, right? But what this is about bringing in high-level NBA performers that also have integrity and leadership. That's what this is about. And honestly, the Knicks could have took all these resources and gone out and gotten anybody. They could have gone out and gotten anybody. That $104 million they gave Jalen Brunson over 4 years, they could have tossed that money at anybody. The Knicks could have said first come, first serve. They chose not to do that. they chose to go after a former NCAA Player of the Year, a two-time NCAA champion, high character leader that plays a position of need for them. That's what they chose. They chose to chase a high character New York area, because I don't know if you consider Long Island the city. I guess if you're on the outside looking in, you might consider New York, whatever it is. It's all the same to people from other places. Shoot, they might consider Jersey City, New York. Who knows? But what I'm getting at is it's not just about run, jump athletes here, right? It's about establishing a culture of leadership, accountability, and winning. Leadership, accountability, and winning. Right? And so I mentioned this idea. I mentioned this idea to somebody I respect. And the first thing that was thrown back in my face was, well, why did they re-sign Julius Randle? If leadership and accountability were a part of building this culture, why is Randle still here? And honestly, I don't have the answer to that. I have this to say about Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell, though. It's not about the size of the dog in the fight. Right? It's not about that. Right? Sports is a zero-sum business. Sport is about one thing. It's about a winner and a loser. Period. Nobody cares about the loser except the people that came into the event supporting the loser. Nobody cares about the loser except those that supported the loser before the game or before the match or whatever it is, whatever sport it is. Whatever event it is, the only people that care about the loser is the one that supported him before he lost. That's it. Sport is a zero-sum business, right? Last year, the Knicks had a backcourt of two guys, 6'7", right? And they lost 45 times. What does that tell you as a fan? As a fan, does that tell you that size matters? Because if size mattered, that tall backcourt would have gotten a different result. Does size matter? Right? Does size matter? Because if size mattered, that tall backcourt of two individuals, 6'6", 6'7", would have won an NBA championship if size mattered. Because the thing is the only knock on Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell is size mattering. That's the only knock. Size mattering. These and so since it's the first time on Apple iTunes, I won't mock fans. Well, you know what? Yes, I will. And guys that are hearing me for the first time, this is my impression of a sour Knicks fan. But the guys are short. They too short. If that made you laugh, trust me, it made me laugh as well. I'm laughing with you on that. Right? I'm laughing with you. Right? The guys are short. They're short. That's me. That's me mocking Knicks fans complaining about a backcourt of two guys 6'1" that didn't mock a backcourt of two guys that were 6'7" and lost 45 games. Right? If that made you laugh, trust me, it made me laugh. It made me laugh too. Right? And so here's the thing. What does the Donovan, in theory, what does the Donovan Mitchell addition mean for the Knicks? What this means is that, for one, the Knicks have acquired a 3-time All-Star that won't be 26 until the first week of September. That means for 60% of his career, he's been an NBA All-Star. That should impress Knicks fans. Because when I ask a Knicks fan, who else in their history made the All-Star team 3 years, 3 times as a Knicks shooting guard, you tell me. Tell me the name of a shooting guard that played for the Knicks or otherwise and played for the Knicks in general. A shooting guard that made the All-Star team 3 times. Name them. Name them. And here's my caveat. You can't go back past 1980. Don't go digging in the crates. Don't pull out the old dusties. I don't want y'all digging out the ink blots or the platters or the spinners or the temptations. Don't pull out the old dusties, right? Pull out some new stuff. Right? If it happened before 1980, I don't want to hear it. What shooting guard have the Knicks had on their roster made the NBA All-Star team 3 times for their team or for the Knicks? Shooting guard. Interesting. Right. Interesting. Here is what Donovan Mitchell brings to the Knicks also. Here's a second point. Short, explosive guards by now generally have had 1 to 2 major injuries. Donovan Mitchell at this point, and we're crossing our fingers and we're knocking on wood. That sound you heard was me knocking on wood with 2 crossed fingers. And I know that's awkward, but hopefully iTunes, you'll grow to love this Blorange Tears family and understand that my awkwardness is just part of the game. So I'm knocking on wood with 2 crossed fingers that this does not happen to Donovan Mitchell. You never wish major injuries on a guy. But Zach LaVine has had his major injury. Right? Paul George, it might not be undersized, but he had his major injury. The athletes that I'm getting at now. That's what I'm getting at now is the athletes just in general. And we have a guy on our roster today that was an undersized guard, multiple-time All-Star, league MVP, that went through this process of multiple lower leg injuries. Right? Donovan Mitchell at age 26, he'll be 26 September 7th. Right? He'll be 26 September 7th-ish or something like that, I guess. Has not had the major injury. So now he's into his man body. He's in his man body now. So the wear and tear on a kid's body has not broken him down. He is healthy. As I knock on wood with 2 crossed fingers. Right? What does the Donovan Mitchell addition mean for the Knicks? It means The arrow is pointing all the way up. It's all the way up. Right? Okay. So one last thing on what does the addition of Donovan Mitchell mean for the Knicks is this. When the Knicks go into battle against these other teams in the Eastern Conference on a night in, night out basis, now they have a guy who can go face to face, point for point, with the James Hardens of the world, with the Jason Tatums of the world, with the Fred. Did I just say Fred? With the Fred VanVleets of the world. Yes, the Knicks have been so bad that we have not had a guy that could go point for point with Fred freaking VanVleet. We have been so bad for so long that a guy named Fred is better than every guard that we have on a roster currently. A guy named Fred. A guy named Fred is better than every guard that we have on a roster currently. And people are asking me, what does a Donovan Mitchell addition mean for the Knicks? It means that we can beat Fred. It means on those nights, is Manchild in the building? Is Manchild in the building? Manchild. It means when Manchild goes to the Knicks versus Raptors game, he can see a Knick go to battle against a dude named Fred and maybe win. Because for the last few years, we went to battle against a guy named Fred. And then they had a guy named Kyle. They had a guy named Kyle also. Fred and Kyle is who we lost to. Fred and Kyle is who the Knicks were losing to. Right? Think about it. We lost to a dude named Fred and a dude named Kyle. They teamed up and beat the Knicks. I thought when you're a basketball player, you're supposed to have cool names like Swish or Swoop or Flash or Speedy, right? Or Booby or Boogie or Magic. We were losing to dudes named Fred and Kyle. And we were losing to Fred and Kyle on a routine basis because we had guards that were 6'7". We had 6'7" guards. Yet we're complaining about an all-star that's 6'1". So what does Donovan Mitchell's addition mean for the Knicks? It means that even though respectability doesn't win you a championship, it gets you closer. So what does Donovan Mitchell's addition mean for the Knicks? It doesn't guarantee a championship, but it gets you closer. It gets you respectable. It gets you wins on the back end, the second game of those back-to-backs against Sacramento, because you played Golden State the night before. You play Golden State the night before and lose, and now you're in Sacramento, dead tired, and you lose because you don't have a spider. Remember the cool nickname reference I used? Right? The cool nicknames. Now, am I saying cool nicknames will win you a championship? No. I'm not saying that Donovan Mitchell is going to get you closer to the LOB. And LOB stands for Larry O'Brien Trophy, y'all. The LOB is the Larry O'Brien Trophy for those that are new. And if you're new on YouTube, consider subscribing to the channel. Subscribe. Go ahead and do it. Just do it. Do it. Do it. Do what's satisfied, whatever it is. Do it. Smash the like button. Right? Go to the Blorange Tears homepage on YouTube. Look at that join button and consider joining the family. This is what we do right here. We talk Knicks. Right? We talk Knicks. The ins and the ins and the outs. We talk the ins and the outs of the Knicks, right? Because we're passionate, right? We are all passionate Knicks fans using these platforms to have conversations about topics that matter. About topics that matter. We want to get in depth and talk that Knicks talk the way you like that Knicks talk to be talked to you. That's what we do. That's what we do. Right? And so the grand topic of this thing is are the Knicks close to moving on from a Donovan Mitchell acquisition? And I think I shortened it, like are the Knicks moving on, or are the Knicks close, or whatever. I shortened it for the sake of titles and all that stuff. You guys know, you know how it is when you see a title, you see a long one, and you're like, oh man, I don't have all night to, you know what I'm saying? But the title of this thing is, are the Knicks close to moving on from the acquisition of Donovan Mitchell? Like, are they close? So I have a second question, and it only took me 46 minutes to get to the second. It only took me 46 minutes to get to the second question, y'all. I'm moving at a crispy pace, right? So the second question is, how much should the Knicks pay to acquire Donovan Mitchell? How much should the Knicks pay? Honestly, right? Honestly, I think the Utah Jazz, their asking price is ridiculous. I think the Utah Jazz's asking price is ridiculous. And if the Knicks don't pay it, I'm not hurt. Right? Where I am frustrated though is the slow burn. If you know you're not paying that price, then walk away and tell everyone that you've walked away. Right? Walk away and tell everyone that you've walked away, because the asking price is ridiculous. And you don't have to look back. You don't have to feel any regrets. You did the best you could. You're not gonna give away all the family's assets in this one transaction. It's a smart move, right? What makes it even smarter is, if you're not gonna pay it, don't let this thing drag out. Tell everyone involved, including Knicks fans who are involved vicariously, emotionally, we're involved, right? And for those in power, here's a lesson to you. If you are in power, if you're in a position of leadership, the last thing you want to do is disturb your followers emotionally. For those of y'all in leadership, don't disturb your followers emotionally. You let them draw on their own emotion. Don't draw on their emotion like that, because what it does is it puts people in a situation where they regret following you. And yes, I got that out of a fortune cookie. I was at the Shanghai house. I read that in a fortune cookie. Yeah. I know that's what y'all saying. Darren Wayne is saying, like, oh, Uncle Freezy sound like a fortune cookie. Yeah, Darren Wayne, listen, man. I got that out of a fortune cookie. I was at the Shanghai house, and they brought, you know how they bring the last thing and then bring the thing with the fortune cookies and all that. And I opened it up and it said, "Don't disturb your followers emotionally." Man, child, I was just talking to you the other day. I was just talking to you about at the 44-minute mark of this, man, child. I was talking about you about how the Knicks didn't have weaponry to beat a man named Fred. A man named Fred at 6 foot beat our two gigantor guards that were 6'7". We had two guards 6'7", and a man named Fred that's 6 foot beat our two 6'7" guards. And yet there are people in Knicks universe that say we need more 6'7" guards. Shout out to Manchild. So Manchild, I think Manchild just showed up. I saw him shouting out the chat. So here's the question. How much should the Knicks pay for Donovan Mitchell? What is the total cost of a Donovan Mitchell transaction? What do we get in return for Donovan Mitchell? Are we just getting Donovan Mitchell, or are we getting things that go with it? Are we getting additional players? So the question is subjective. The question is subjective, right? The subject of the question is in different places, meaning it's subjective. Is this question about Donovan Mitchell? Is it about what to pay? Is it about the Knicks, or is it about the Jazz? It's subjective, right? Because the question could be centered around 4 different entities, right? Is it about what the Knicks pay? Is it about the Knicks? Is it about Mitchell? Is it about the Jazz? I'm here to tell you the latest offer I heard from Danny Ainge or the counter for 4 players and 7 picks is ridiculous. You don't pay an entire NBA roster for Michael Jordan. I don't care. And earlier I was on with International Andy. Shout out to International Andy. International Andy is a nothing but Knicks contributor, right? He's a nothing but Knicks contributor. He lives in Europe. He sees the game a different way than the Americans do, and it's solely because of it's solely because our environments and how we view, right? So how much should the Knicks pay for Donovan Mitchell? I say pay a reasonable amount. And I know that sounds like I'm dodging the question. I'm okay with 4 first-round picks. I'm okay with 2 or 3 players, right? What I'm not okay with is 7 draft picks and 4 players. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. At some point, the Utah Jazz have to get a better view of their market, because Rudy Gobert went for 4 first-round picks and a bunch of players. Doesn't mean Donovan Mitchell will go for that. And he won't. Because ultimately the New York Knicks and other teams will walk away, and Danny Ainge will look like a crazy old man that's living in the past. Danny Ainge will, this is Danny Ainge right now. Danny Ainge is the 75-year-old retiree, right? That's been retired for about 10 years. He's been out of the workplace, right? And on the side, he's doing magic tricks at birthday parties and stuff, right? Think about that. 75-year-old man, the magician. You hire him to come to your birthday party, right? And the first trick he does, right, for the little kids, he takes his top hat off and he looks in it and he's praying to himself, oh my goodness, I hope this trick works. And he reaches in his hat and he pulls a live bunny out of the hat. And the bunny is wiggling like, hey, you holding me by my ears. He pulls a bunny out of the hat, right? That is the Minnesota Timberwolves trick. That's what he pulled on the T-Wolves. Like this amateur magician, retiree guy comes back out of the mothballs. The first thing he does is his best trick. He uses his best trick. His first trick is his best trick. He pulls a bunny out of his hat. That is the Minnesota Timberwolves. It got the Timberwolves. Now he's reaching down in his hat to do something even better than pulling a rabbit out of a hat. He wants to make your mom's car disappear. And you keep hearing words like abracadabra, and the car's still there. Abracadabra, and the car's still there. And then he walks around and he waves his wand, right? Waves his wand, tells everybody to close their eyes. And then he says, abracadabra. And your mom's car is still there. Now what? Now what, Danny Ainge? You use your best trick first. Now you have nothing left. You use your best trick first. And the trick that you used, it wasn't even a good one. You had to pray that the rabbit that you bought from the pet store would stay in that underneath that table while you reached in there and grabbed it from underneath the table. And you reached down in there and you grabbed through your hat into that table that was covered, of course, so the kids couldn't see it. And you pulled that rabbit out by its ears, right? You pulled that pet store rabbit out of that hat, and now you're telling everybody you're going to make their mom's car disappear. And now the teenagers have shown up. The teenagers are standing around like, okay, this is a really good trick. Come on, old man, do something. Because you can't fool the teenagers. You might be able to fool the kids, but you won't be able to fool the teenagers. Who are kids, by the way, but you get what I'm saying. And that's where we are with Donovan Mitchell and Danny Ainge. And so the question is, how much should the Knicks pay? Danny Ainge, this trick that you're trying to run on the Knicks is not going to go well. 4 players, 3 young players, 1 old player, and 7 draft picks for Donovan Mitchell. Even though we want Donovan Mitchell, we're not going to pay that. Even though we have the assets to pay and we really want Donovan Mitchell, no, we're not going to pay that. We're not going to pay that, Danny Ainge. Shout out to the 125, 130 or so people watching. That number fluctuates. So shout out to those people watching. We've been on just about an hour. Shout out to the people listening to this on Apple iTunes. We're trying something new. And it's been about an hour and I've gotten through 2 questions. So I'm going to speed this up just a little bit. So here's the next question, right? And I'll make this the last question. I'll just make this the last question just because it's our first time doing something like this for iTunes. Here's our last question. How does giving up all those assets affect the remaining players on the Knicks roster? Right? So say, for instance, we give up Obi, Quickly, and Grimes and 4 first-round picks. And I know you got to be like, wow, that's a lot, Uncle Freezy. No way. I'm just saying. We gotta to have the exercise work, man. We just gotta go with something. Right? So the Knicks give up Obi Toppin, Quentin Grimes, and Emmanuel Quickly, 3 unprotected firsts. That's the deal. Right? How are the other players affected by the departure of the young players? Right? How does Evan Fournier feel about not being in the deal? How does Derrick Rose feel about not being in the deal? Right? How does Cam Reddish, Miles McBride, Ferren Hunt feel about not being in the deal? Are they going to be hurt by a major deal like this? Does the acquisition of Donovan Mitchell outweigh the departure of these guys' friend? Right? Is the addition of Donovan Mitchell going to outweigh the departure of these young people's friends and teammates? It's something to consider. It's something to consider. And I know that the chat is saying, for those that can't see, that the chat is saying, man, they have to get over it. It's a business. I agree with you. I agree with you. Right? But what I'm getting at is not separation anxiety. I'm talking about chemistry. I'm not talking about separation anxiety. I'm not talking about writing a letter to your guy because you miss him. I'm talking about chemistry. These things that are very underrated in professional settings. Chemistry. Right? And here's one other question. I promise you I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna wrap this up, and then we're gonna get down to what we call the nitty-gritty. Right? I'm gonna wrap this one up in a few seconds, right after this question. Will the coaching staff adjust to Donovan Mitchell's play style and arrival? Can Tom Thibodeau and his coaching staff adjust to Donovan Mitchell's play style, and can they coach a star? You have never seen this coaching staff coach a star in New York. The New York Knicks have not had a star since this coaching staff and regime has been here. Will they be able to adjust? Will they be able to adjust? I'm asking the chat this. I'm asking you guys here on the iTunes podcast this question. I'm gonna leave it right there. Right, since it's our first outing, we won't go too long. I don't want to bore you guys to death with the most mundane voice you ever heard in your life. But what I would suggest, though, for all the Apple iTunes listeners that want more of Blorange Tears, this rabid base of in and outers like Keith Turner, E. Gibson, Two Tears in a Bucket, Bo Ismail, Manchild, the Black Knight, who was that? William Turnbull, Don P, Champ, Wiz, Greeny from Li, Pre Keith, Ghetto Intellect, G-Man for Life, everybody, all the Blorange, Coach, Selly, Chilltown, JC, and all of the recent contributors. Yes, I'm shouting y'all out on Apple iTunes. Yes, you got your name said on iTunes. Okay. Yes, y'all owe me a drink. Y'all owe me a bottle of water or something when y'all see me. Right. I'm shouting y'all out on Apple iTunes. Right. Okay. But to those listening to us on Apple iTunes for the first time, or listening to us to the first time, and it's on Apple iTunes, thank you for listening to us. We definitely want to have you back. We'll probably try to upload something again next week around this time. Thanks again. Oh yeah, I forgot about Salt. I said Wiz. Yeah. Thank y'all for listening. This is Blorange Tears. You can find us on YouTube/Blorange Tears. Consider subscribing to the channel. Smash the like button when you get here. Check us out on our Patreon page. The Patreon page is Patreon/Knicks_Blorange Tears. Check us out there. Consider joining over there. And for more Knicks content, stay tuned to Apple iTunes. We'll try to do this once a week. Again, I am the #1 Chief Rocket in Knicks Universe, your main man, Uncle Freezy. Thank you for listening, and peace.